The views and opinions expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Reproduction or dissemination other than for the purpose of education or information without the express written permission of the Phoenix Research Institute or Nova Society Media is strictly prohibited. We'd like to welcome everyone back to our short Wednesday session here at the Nova Society. And for today's question, we're going to be asked if we believe that the rise of Kamala Harris and the excitement in the Democratic Party is sustainable, and what might she have to do to maintain this momentum going forward into November. So let's listen in.
New polls suggest that Kamala Harris is now leading in key swing states. And Scott, I'm going to start with you. Do you think this is a product of Harris being a new fad, or do you think there are other reasons for the Harris poll uptick?
So here, what I think about polls is the same thing I thought before about polls. I haven't changed my mind just because Kamala Harris is doing better in the polls than Donald Trump. That would be hypocritical to like polls now when I didn't like them before. Polls are a snapshot in time. They're not decisive. They don't seem to carry all that much weight. Things can change in a big hurry. And but I think that the polling shows that there were double haters and there were haters, and that the haters are still the haters, but the double haters some of them have moved off. They've got a shiny new object to play with, and they like that shiny new object very much. Tim Walz has been, I think, a breath of fresh air. Kamala Harris is a breath of fresh air. We're not looking at two older white men anymore. It's generationally different, right? Both the vice president and the president candidates are the same age as my younger brother. Right, whereas Barack Obama was the same age as my older brother. I guess my generation is getting skipped, but these guys really do bring something different to the table than Biden Trump, and I think that the momentum is going to continue. I think that the campaign is doing a great job of highlighting what's good and hiding the possible shortcomings of the candidates. And as hard as the Republicans are trying, I don't think they're landing any punches when it comes to hitting on them. I mean, it's really gotten down to they're now saying that Tim Walz is a Chinese spy. Have you heard that one? And that's not just fringy people from Newsmax. That's like James Comer and Jim Jordan are going to investigate why Tim Walz and his wife got married on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. Just like crazy stuff like that. What were they doing in China, and when did they know? That kind of thing. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. If Mark could stop laughing, he could actually add something to the conversation.
If you and I can both stop laughing, about that, Mark, what do you think? What are your thoughts on can this momentum be maintained? And does Tim Walz help with his potentially being a Chinese spy?
Well. The reason I'm laughing is because I was born and married. My anniversary and my birthday are on the date of the death of John Quincy Adams. Now, I don't know what the Congress would make of that, but something always happens on some date. I mean, that it's just kind of the way it works. It's kind of amazing that they actually Googled up to figure out, the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. I have to give them some credit for that. I didn't think they were smart enough to be able to Google something like that out. But again, that's why I was laughing. I definitely agree with Scott with Tim Walz. He is. You couldn't typecast a more Midwestern guy than Tim Walz. I mean, you just can't do it. My wife is from Chicago. She's Midwestern, and she says, I know people like that. No, I'm from New York. I don't know as many people like that. And she says, I know people who are just like that. Homespun football coaches, wear flannel. Carhartt is their go-to. They love LL Bean. She goes, yeah, I know this guy. I mean, and I think that's an important thing when people can relate to the candidate. Can they maintain the momentum? I've always said, one-off shit takes away an awful lot of attaboys. They have to be extremely careful. If the only thing that the Republicans can throw at Tim Walz is you were married on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square, you got nothing to worry about. Just kind of let it go. Don't swing at the bad pitch, which is exactly what they're hoping for. That somebody's going to take a swing at a bad pitch. And usually when you do, it makes you look bad. So again, avoid that. I think that they can keep up the momentum because I think there's a different dynamic here. Everybody keeps saying Trump needs to talk about the issues. The fact is that the question comes down to it. Do you want reality TV as government? And if you ever pay attention to A&E and you're watching reality TV, it's always the same thing. It's always the same story over and over again. And usually after about 4 or 5 seasons of it, people get bored with it and and it's gone. And I think that's exactly what's happened with Trump. Yeah, it was entertaining, although it was painful for the country for the 4 years. But now here where we're at. And so, yeah. I think they can, but they've got to avoid swinging at the bad pitches.
So here's another thing. Last night on the convention was all about mothers and females, right? Mothers and women can get it done. And, Kamala's mother was really special. Michelle Obama's mother was really special. And I think tonight is going to be all about dads and good guys, and Tim Walz is, the Tim Walz jokes are great, right? The goof that Obama got in yesterday about his shirt, and it's been through some things and that kind of stuff I think we're gonna see more of that. One of the things that, the bad dad jokes that are going around on the internet now are funny and cute and sweet. Tim Walz is the kind of guy who takes a stud finder, points it to himself and says, got one, like that kind of thing. He double clicks his tongues when he goes to the barbecue. He's got a real everyman quality about him. And I think that that's very, very nice when you compare him to the weird guys on the other ticket.
And that leads me to the next question that I have. And Mark, I'll start with you. What about the debate on September 10th? Is this the Vance-Walz debate?
No, it's no.
This is the presidential debate. Yeah, Harris-Trump debate. What about the Harris-Trump debate? Will that have any appreciable effect on the race between the two?
It could. It could have, once again, Harris has to avoid an aw shit. The question comes down to it, how good is she at debating? I think that's still an open question. She did very well at the first debate when she was running in 2020 or 2019, whenever it started out. So the real question comes down to it is actually how well she can do. If she takes the prosecutor's attitude, I think she'll do very, very well. And once again, don't swing at the bad pitch, because that's all Trump's going to be giving you. Bad pitches. Don't swing at them. Let them stand on their own. Let them stand on their own. You are not going to change any Trump supporters' view. Get that out of your mind. You're not going to change it. If they're in the cult, they're in the cult. You're not going to change it. So that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this week's episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium offering social issue solutions to NGOs and international government agencies through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research. We'd also like to thank our podcast partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Podkite, who does all our analytics, iHeartRadio, where people get their music and podcasts, Apple iTunes, the largest source of music and podcasts on the internet, Spotify, the most popular source for the Nova Society. The Nova Society is available on all these and other quality platforms mentioned in our description. We'd like to thank our listeners. Without you, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a comment, a question, or would like to be a guest on the Nova Society, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. Always remember, the power of society is knowledge. So for Dr. Scott Gershworth, Dr. Priscilla Hobbs, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and all of us here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Be well, and we hope to see you again next time.